This is just going to be a really short video about the summary. Because as I said, these are kind of the 4 basics. And we talked about the cover design, keywords and categories. We're going to talk about summary and book reviews. So for summary, this is kind of how Amazon works. They find your book. Maybe you've done some marketing or content marketing. Maybe they even found your website, or they found one of your guest posts. Or if you're using keywords and categories correctly, maybe they're surfing around on Amazon, they click on a book, they go down here to customers also bought, they see recommended, and so they're gonna look at your book cover and it looks really good, it looks good enough, so they're gonna read your summary. This is kind of the purchasing process. If your book cover isn't good enough, they're just gonna leave, and your summary doesn't matter because they're not reading it. So for example, if I go down here far enough, like these 2 covers, they don't attract me at all. It's not to say they're not good books. They might be really good books. But if I click these, the cover doesn't attract me enough. It's not bad, actually. It's not a terrible cover, but it could be better. But if it doesn't attract the readers, they're just not going to click. So they'll never get to this page, or they might just glance at the reviews and see that it has, not a great balance of reviews. Even though it's 3.5, that's not really that high. So based on the reviews and the cover, they're probably going to assume it's not a great book and they won't read the description. So that's why you need to fix the reviews and fix the book cover before you even start with the summary. But then people are going to read the summary and decide whether or not to buy the book. So this is really important to get right, and it's very difficult to write for your own book. There's not a template that always works. I've seen this done a lot of different ways. Something I saw recently on a book that I just bought that's doing, I bought it because it's selling a ton of copies. And it interests me because I've seen this image on a dozen different book covers, even some traditionally published book covers. So I thought it was kind of funny that they just took this stock photography, which is so recognizable and so obvious, and they just used it again, even though it's been used on a lot of books in the same genre, and it's still selling a ton of copies. So like it doesn't really, that's why I say don't worry about being a cliche, don't worry about stock photography, just worry about does the cover appeal. Like if it's an attractive, cool photo that appeals to your readers, you don't have to work very hard to make a nice book cover. You just put text on it and it's gonna work. Even if they've seen this picture before, it still works. But what she did, oh, maybe it wasn't this one. This is a short description. It's short. She didn't use the keyword. Like I would have put more keywords up here and more keywords up here. So it's amazing and awesome that she's still selling a ton of copies even though she didn't put any keywords. That's probably because people are buying it and talking about it, and it's good. The beginning of the book is really powerful, so it definitely draws you in. I think that's why it's going to be really successful. Also, though, Donna Augustine does a lot of marketing. She does a lot of author interviews and guest posts. She's on a lot of different websites. So like if you research what she's doing a lot of things right, and it's not her first book. So it's not like, it's a sudden overnight success. This is what I was thinking about before. So under editorial reviews, what she actually did is just posted a whole lot. It's like a big excerpt from the first chapter. And this is basically the same thing that they would get if they went up here and clicked on it and went to chapter 1. But a lot of people won't click on it and read to chapter 1. So because the beginning of her book is so strong and powerful, she just put it here on the Amazon page so people could start reading it right away and get into the story, which I think is smart and might be why she's selling so many copies. But I haven't seen this done very often, so it's something you want to think about. She's in dark fantasy, new adult, and college. She's like #1, so she's doing really well. I checked, my Kindle Spy said she was selling like 80,000 copies a month, and that may not be right, but it's still pretty awesome. Anyway, but the summary is really hard to write yourself. You want to get a lot of feedback. You probably want to pay for an editor. You want to pay for a really good editor. It's not a lot of text, so you can pay $20 and have somebody edit your summary. Or you can do something like a friend of mine, Brian Cohen, has this best page forward service where you'll basically pay him to write the summary for you. You don't necessarily have to do that. The summary is just part of your sales funnel, but it is important to get right, and it's really hard to get right. What you don't want to do is you don't want to talk about the book and say stuff like, this is such a great book, this is an amazing, life-changing, best-selling book. You don't want to sell the book because people don't like to be sold to. You want to show that the book is good, and that's kind of what she did here, where she has a short description. And actually, I think even most of this, she's writing in first person. This isn't about the book. This is first person from the protagonist, which is kind of the same as this. So people can really get into it and feel the story right away. I'll probably copy some of the stuff she's doing on this page because I think it's unusual. Like I said, I would have focused on getting found by putting a lot of keywords in here and adding stuff that people are going to find. But she's selling a lot, probably because instead of doing that, she made this really tight and powerful first-person narrative straight out of the book. So people can experience the book and the writing on the Amazon page, instead of what a lot of people will do is just describe the book or what happens in the book, or they'll give a summary like, 16-year-old Dahlia lives here and blah, blah, blah. It's just not as gripping and personal. So it's kind of like, it's a trade-off. You have to experiment probably and see, do you want to add more keywords, or do you want to have something like this where you're talking in the first person? There's no golden rule that's going to make this work, but you want to look at what other best-selling authors are doing. Like if I go into dark fantasy, I can look at some of these other books and see what they're doing in their description that's working for them. So a lot of people also put editorial reviews. See, here's a more standard description. This is more like a description text. This is the only home Thea has ever known. She's not going anywhere. That's fine too. You want to make it short. You don't want to give away everything that happens in the book. You want to set up the main conflict. So you're like, this is the character, this is the setting and the conflict. You want to show the stakes. You want to show the world. So there's the fae and the real monsters, and something about danger or death, or will she survive? Will they end up together? You want to ask the story questions that the story will answer. Anyway, you can study a lot about summary, and it's difficult to do, and you might need help. And there's different ways to do it. So it's hard to say like this is the way you should do your summary, but it's also really easy to change. So you can try one and then see if it works. If it doesn't work, you can edit it. You can fix something or try something else. If you have a lot of books, you can experiment with the different books and see if which one works for your books the best, and see which one readers of your genre are responding to. And then we also need a lot of reviews, and we need positive reviews. So I'm going to talk a little bit about reviews in the next video, which will be the last one about the basics and setting up your Amazon page.